Welcome back to another episode of Big Apple Breakdown. Today we have something special for you guys. Today, Sam Luckini is joining us for an interview.
Yeah, it's Sam Luckini of Empire Sports Media. He runs Fireside Yankees on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. Great interview with him. Talked a lot of Yankees. Make sure you go check him out on Instagram. You can find him at Empire Sports Media, Fireside Yankees, Fireside Giants, and Fireside Bets. It was a great interview. Yeah,
Before we get into the interview, I just want to thank Sam once again for coming on. It really means a lot to us. This is our first big interview with somebody that has the stature that he does, and it just meant a lot to us. So I hope you guys enjoyed.
of course. We're very, very thankful to have him on. It meant a lot to us, and it was an awesome time to interview him.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. Let's get right into this interview.
All right, guys, it is time for our interview of the show. It's my honor to introduce Sam Luckini of Empire Sports Media, Fireside Yankees, as well as Fireside Giants and Fireside Rangers. Sam, how you doing?
I'm incredible. It's great to be here. Going to talk some ball, going to talk some Yanks. Very exciting. We get the off date today, so there's a little pause. They played for 13 straight days, guys. So there's a lot going on, a lot of games, but they had a nice little road trip. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Let's get right into it. So, Yankees currently sit at 15 and 10. What do you think the biggest strengths of this team are, and what do you think the biggest weaknesses of this team are?
So it's interesting. I think there's a lot of aspects of this Yankee team that are very surprising, and then there's a lot of things that have disappointed us early in the season. I'll tell you guys right now, I did not see Paul Goldschmidt turning into modern day Tony Gwynn. So that was definitely a big surprise to the first 25 games of the year. Like, this guy's hitting 383. He's hit 450 over the past week. It's unbelievable what he's doing right now. And I'm going to let you guys know right now, this was an absolute shocker when they signed him. We were very disappointed because he's an aging veteran. He's 38 years old. Did not expect that kind of production out of a first baseman, after what we saw from Anthony Rizzo, an aging veteran over the past couple of years. But he's been awesome. The lackluster performances that we've gotten from Cody Bellinger are interesting. I don't love that necessarily. I think he can kick it on and get going at some point, but Aaron Judge is still Aaron Judge. You're getting, weird contributions from this offense right now that are kind of shocking in a way. Like I just mentioned with Paul Goldschmidt, but like a guy like Trent Grisham, who just cannot stop hitting and plays immaculate defense out there in center field, to the point where you think that he should probably play every day with this kind of hot streak that he's going on right now. Ben Rice is another one who's been absolutely incredible. That Savant page is beautiful. It's straight red. He didn't really have it last year. He had the 3-homer game, which is really cool. But this year has just been mashing the ball after putting on, like 10, 15 pounds of muscle in the offseason. I will say right now, the biggest takeaway that I have from, the first 25 games or whatever is this pitching staff is relatively concerning. I think, what we've gotten from Carlos Rodon over the past two starts has been really encouraging. It's been awesome. He hasn't given up a run in his last 13 innings or whatever, 17 strikeouts. He's been great, but he gets shelled. It's very odd to, walk into a Carlos Rodon start and have that kind of trust. Max Fried He's been incredible. He's been every bit of the $16 million that they gave him or whatever. He's slotted in as Garrett Cole's replacement seamlessly and has been awesome. Clark hasn't looked great since coming back, but I would imagine at some point that he kicks it on and he looks better. He was injured for a while, so I think we'll be okay. You get Luis Hill back at some point, and then I think Warren can kick it on as well. But like you guys are throwing out Carlos Carrasco every 5 days. I don't have a ton of faith in that rotation. And then with the bullpen, I think it's interesting that, Williams kind of Williams kind of found his footing over he went 5 straight outings, not giving up a run, looked great. Had the blow up there where he gave up the 4 runs and the Yankees, ended up losing that game on Saturday, which was incredibly rough. And then this week, you saw Weaver step back into that closer role. Devin didn't pitch at all in Cleveland. I have faith in that bullpen. I'm very concerned about Devin and his ability to pitch in these situations in the Yankee pinstripes. When you come from Milwaukee to New York, it's a different type of atmosphere. I think he's an incredible pitcher. I think he can kick it on at some point, but it's definitely a level of concern right now. But I think the offense from a from an objective standpoint has been incredible, right? The rotation's a little shaky. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of injuries. Obviously, not having Garrett Cole is rough. I have faith in that bullpen. I think Matt Blake will, figure something out at some point with whoever's struggling in there right now. But I think biggest takeaway is pitching is sort of an issue, and the bats have kind of carried us, which is something that I did not expect from this team
Mhm.
at all this year. I expected them to be carried by the rotation.
Yeah, it definitely felt like it was going to be the opposite of last year, where we had these monsters in the lineup, and now felt like this was going to be more of a complete baseball team, and we were going to have to lean on our pitching more, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it just felt like it was going to be the opposite of what we had last year, and it's actually more of what we had last year. Bats are stepping up, and the pitching hasn't been great. Besides uh, Max Fried, and then a couple starts from Rodon.
Yeah, I think
It-
we expected a more boring brand of baseball, to be
Mm.
completely frank with you guys. Obviously, you go from Judge and Soto and Stanton last year and all the home runs and fireworks and that kind of stuff. You then this offseason they focused strictly on pitching and defense. And it seemed very, 2023-esque as far as what their offseason looked like going into that season. And it's been the complete opposite. They can't stop hitting right now. If they don't score 5 runs, they won't win a baseball game, and they're doing that more often than they won't right now. So the offense has been insane, and I did not expect this from this team whatsoever.
yeah, with the starting pitching, obviously there's five guys need to produce, but to me, the main blame is Carlos Rodon. We're paying him 26, $27 million. And he's just one of the more frustrating guys that I've seen in the team in recent years because some days he has the stuff, he looks awesome. And even on some of his bad games, he has the swing and misses, but he has three bad at bats and he gives up 4 or 5 runs. My question to you is, do you think we'll ever live up to that contract or even be close to that?
So that's a great question. I think that he can eventually get to that standard. Obviously, right now that I just mentioned, like he's coming off of 13 innings and two straight starts, and he's striking out 17 guys. I think he has 45 strikeouts. It's tied for the second most in the league right now. But then you have he's so frustrating to watch because what ends up happening is you'll have like 3 or 4 straight incredible outings for Carlos Rodon. Then he'll go out for 2 innings. He'll give up 8 runs and just get shelled, right? And then you immediately lose the game off rip, and it sucks. Do I think that he will live up to that contract? I don't think so. Because at this point right now, we're in year 3 of the deal. I think he was very good last year, but the underlying metrics on Rodon last year were really gross, right? This year, the underlying metrics look really good, but the results early on were really poor. So maybe we're starting a corner here, like turn a corner here. Who really knows? But, at this point, I'm not going to say halfway through year 3, but we're in the middle of year 3 of, I think he's getting paid what, $27 million a year. I think, a pitcher's lifespan is only going to decline at this point. I'm not necessarily sure how old Carlos Rodon is. If I were to put a number on it, I'd probably say like 32. But with 3 years left, I don't think he's going to live up to that number. That's a big number for a starting pitcher. At the time, I think
Hmm.
it was like the most for a lefty ever. And then Free broke the number like 2 years later. But I don't think he's going to end up resulting to that figure. No, not from what we've seen so far.
Sadly, I agree. He's so frustrating to watch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the thing is, at the end of the day, like when you envisioned this rotation going into this year, and it's kind of weird to say a $27 million pitcher was like your 3 or 4 guy
Yeah.
because like Heel could have jumped him in the rotation. Like Clark looked awesome last year before he got hurt. He could have jumped him in the rotation. And then you have Cole and Fried at the top. It's just weird because of the Yankee money and how much money they're able to shell out to people that a $27 million a year pitcher is like your 3 or 4 guy. And I think from that standpoint, I don't necessarily want to call it a failure because I still think that he can produce. But it's just I don't think the WAR total or the innings pitched or
Hmm.
the ERA or the strikeouts or anything like that will result in that end figure being worth it.
Mhm.
And to me, the Max Fried deal was kind of proof that the Yankees don't even believe in him that much.
It's the same. I don't want to say the same profile of pitcher, but when you guys remember when they signed Rodon in like late 22 going into 23,
Hmm.
it was okay. This is your co-ace next to Garrett Cole. He's going to be able to go out every 5 days and shove. Like this rotation in the playoffs should be unstoppable. Like you go game 1, Garrett Cole, game 2, Carlos Rodon. This team is going to be nuts, right? But then they had to redo it again by bringing in Max Fried. So I think that when they signed Fried, my initial reaction was, oh, they don't trust Rodon to be your game 2 starter and to consistently shove. I think that they still think that he could produce, and I still have like a small bit of faith in him. But that to me looked like, hey, this is your other lefty starter that like is going to be a co-ace essentially. After your Rodon, who's going to move down to 3-4. So it was a very interesting move, and Freed's looked every bit of the part so far. So
Yeah, he's been awesome. Moving on to this lineup. So some of the guys in the middle of the lineup, like Chisholm, Volpe, and Bellinger, have looked a little rough. Even you can add Wells to that. Uh, what do you expect them to bounce back? Like, what do you see from these guys right now?
yeah, so I'll go player by player here,
Okay.
and what I think they could do. And I'll start with Anthony Volpe. And here's my biggest takeaway about Anthony Volpe. Okay. Anthony Volpe is a consistent 3 wins above replacement player. He plays incredible defense at shortstop. Like, you'll get a little bit of pop from him, like whatever. If you're able to take Anthony Volpe and you hit him eighth or ninth in your lineup every single day, you take that contribution 10 times out of 10. That's how a lot of these shortstops in Major League Baseball work, is that they're glove first guys, don't really have it with the bat, hit lower in your order, do that kind of stuff, whatever. The numbers are still there defensively. And then with the WAR metric, right? I think that he gets a lot of stuff thrown his way because of the bat, because of those other three guys that you mentioned that aren't producing. So when you have a lineup like that has multiple holes that are gonna like that are an issue, and you point the finger at Anthony Volpe, like, why aren't you hitting? Why aren't you hitting? He's a glove first guy. He's still gonna produce at the end of the day for you. I think that he has a lot of pressure because he was that, highly touted prospect that was supposed to be the next Derek Jeter, right? Everybody's always the next Derek Jeter when you become the New York Yankees shortstop. I think that was really tough on him, and I think it still is at this point. Do I want him to produce more? Absolutely. Do I think he could be better? Absolutely. I mean, we saw what he did for the first week. He was awesome. And then in like weird spurts last year, he was awesome. But he's going through a rough patch right now. I think that he will be better at some point. Um, but yeah, my thing with him is I think there's a lot of hate being thrown his way when I don't necessarily think he should be the only one that we're looking at here. Jackson Jr. is a very interesting case to me because obviously he came out the first years against Milwaukee and hit, 15 home runs and like 70 RBIs and just looked like the best player on the planet. Jazz Chisholm Jr. right now, it looks like he lost a bit of his confidence and his like self-belief and like how he can be an incredible baseball player, because when he came over to the Yankees, he was like the best player on the planet, right?
Hmm.
But lately has looked really rough. And I think that he's got to step up right now. He legitimately, I saw somebody say this a couple days ago, he looks like fast Adam Dunn, because when he comes up to the plate, he will sky a fly out to the center fielder every single time, right? And obviously he's got the speed, plays incredible defense at second base, but he's like so Joey Gallo right now, where it's like home run, strikeout, or bust right now, and that's all he's looking for. Uh, and some of these at bats are really tough to watch from Chisholm. I would like him to go back to being that all around bat, that can spray it all across the field, not just look for the home run the Yankee way, as some would say, because of the Bronx Bombers and all that stuff. But I think that he needs to go back to being. I don't think spray hitter is necessarily the best way to put it, but hitting 159 in the middle of April just is not necessarily going to cut it. He has not looked good at the plate over the past 2 weeks.
Hmm.
Cody Bellinger is an interesting case as well, because I think that he can produce at a high major league level at the plate. He plays incredible defense in center field. He's looked awesome out there. And even in right, there's like this stuff about that other guy and like, oh, the other guy wouldn't make that play. The other guy wouldn't do this. The other guy wouldn't do that. I don't say his name because I speak on him like he's Voldemort. But at the plate, there's a lot left to be desired from Cody Bellinger.
Hmm.
And it's frustrating because the biggest thing with him is he's not pulling the ball whatsoever. He's shooting it the other way. It's the lowest pull ball rate of his career, which like he's a lefty playing in Yankee Stadium with that short porch that looks like it's about 200 feet. Like I could hit a home run out of there. And he's not using that to his strengths whatsoever. So I think that once he starts pulling fly balls, I think that he can get back to it. But right now it's really tough to look at him in the middle of the order hitting behind Aaron Judge. Like that's Aaron Judge's protection right now, is a guy who can't hit above 180. And you're not really getting any production out of that. You're getting production from Goldschmidt right behind him, who's 38 and is still moving, like Unk still got it. But Bellinger's been really disappointing. Again, this is just another guy that I think needs to be better. I don't know. I don't know if I have the faith in him being better because I've seen how bad that he could be, especially his later days out there in Los Angeles. But he produced well in Chicago, and when he came over, I thought he was going to be a good bat. But it's got to be better. Adjustments need to be made. Wells, I don't worry about whatsoever. I think Austin Wells is incredible. I think he's one of the best catcher bats in baseball. Because the catcher bat is so rare to find at this point. I just think it's a rough spell again for him. I mean, he hit a home run. What did he hit a home run? Yesterday, 2 days ago, somewhere in there. I don't
Yeah.
remember. They all kind of jumble in for me. But he was also dealing with he had the food poisoning thing, was out of the lineup, and they're giving a score on that kind of stuff. I think Wells will be perfectly okay. I think he's one of the top catchers in the league. He's incredible defensively. And again, at the end of the day, this is your catcher. And I think he'll get warmer or he'll get better as it starts to warm up. That's kind of what happened with him last year too. He turned into and he was an incredible hitter once that clock turned to May and June. So I think that Wells is going to be a lot better. Belly needs to be better. Jazz needs to switch up how he's hitting. And I think that Volpe will eventually pick it up. I think your value with him is strictly defensively right now. And whatever you can get with him from the bat, I think works. So those four guys are very interesting. It's funny that, they've hit as well as they have, but there's four guys that we have to sit down and talk about and be like, hey, they're not hitting well right now. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with those four.
You think Volpe is also being pulled into this unfair situation because he's in year 3, obviously 6 years of control by the club, and the club could get to this fork in the road where they have to make a decision on him, but he's still so young and still has room for growth.
Yeah, I think it's interesting with, kind of the way that free arbitration extensions work with the league at this point now, and how early these teams are making these decisions on players. I mean, I saw stuff last year about them extending him early, and we posted stuff about them extending Wells and them extending Volpe and Dominguez early just to do stuff like that. But I think that and the Yankees as an organization, going back to even the Aaron Judge stuff, they didn't want to extend him before he even hit free agency. It was weird. And then, they didn't extend that other guy last year, whatever. I don't think that, there will be an extension tossed this way. Even Glaber is another guy. I don't think that something like that will be tossed his way, but I don't think they're hard pressed to make a decision right now just because of what they have on the horizon as far as money coming off the books and stuff like that. I think he'll end up playing it out, and we'll see where we're at in 3 years with Anthony Volpe. Is the back going to develop even further? Because there's been flashes, man, of him being a decent hitter, being a decent major league hitter to pair with that glove. So I don't think that fork in the road is necessarily here yet, but I think that down the line at some point it will come. Yes.
All right. I'm going to ask you a question I think Aaron Boone's been avoiding. So Ben Rice looks great. And with Paul Goldschmidt playing well, I'm going to ask the $1,000,000 question. When Giancarlo Stanton comes back, what happens to Ben Rice?
I don't answer this question either. That's the problem. I don't answer this question either because G is my favorite player on the team. I love Stan. That's my guy. You know what, man? I don't know. And I've ran through the scenario so many times, and the answer that I kind of continuously land on is, can Ben Rice play third base?
That's what I've said. Yes, I love it.
Can Ben Rice get tossed over third base? He's an athletic dude. I think he could do it over there, but it's tough, man, because I don't the way I genuinely envisioned it panning out is, when the Stanton news dropped and they just signed Goldschmidt it's a cheaper deal. It's $12 million a year. It's just the 1 year, right? What I envisioned how it was going to pan out was Goldschmidt was going to struggle. I thoroughly thought that Goldschmidt was going to struggle and that we were going to reach a point in June or July and Stanton was going to come back because that was the timetable at the time, that it was doomsday, we're not going to see him for a while. I thought that they were going to be okay, Goldschmidt's not playing well, Rice is, and then we can just, we can DFA Goldschmidt, do whatever. Rice then slots to first base, Stanton goes to DH. Right now, I don't have an answer for you, genuinely. And I think that there's a good reason why Boone's avoiding it because, I don't have an answer for it. Anybody that I ask doesn't have an answer about it. So I think it's going to be a very, I don't even want to say awkward because I think that Stanton's getting paid $27 million a year. He doesn't give a shit if he's going to sit on the bench and like do
Uh-huh.
whatever. But you want him in that lineup every day, which is going to be tough. But I don't know. You're not going to stick him in the outfield. Like Stanton's not going to go play the outfield.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Rice isn't going to catch. You're not going to pull Goldschmidt out. He's hitting unbelievably well. Your answer is literally, can Ben Rice play third base? I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the main thing. I don't think he can personally. I really
Yeah.
don't. Like I don't think he can. Um, but I think that's like the difficult question that's going to come up when he comes back is like, how do you work these guys in? Are you going to platoon them because Stan's righty, Rice is lefty? Like, do you just platoon DH? But even then, like Rice is genuinely going to get more at bats because you're going to see more righties. So yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
It's honestly a good problem to have.
Yeah, for
Get to
sure.
that
Is
point.
having too many bats, but they're just in the wrong positions. Like if I
Yeah,
could stick him, at third and do whatever and finally find the solution, then yeah, but you can't do that, obviously.
yeah, exactly. Uh, so moving on to Marcus Stroman, what do you think? What do you see the Yankees doing with him?
Like just in general, like what
Yeah,
do they
like,
do?
do you think he'll stick it out this year, or do you
I
think?
mean, I think he's Phantom. I think he's Phantom IL right now, or like what is it called? Is it Phantom IL? Is that the
Yeah,
term,
right.
right?
Yeah.
I think he's Phantom IL right now. I mean, like I sit here as a 25-year-old who sits here and types on a computer every day, and I look at 90 miles per hour on a computer screen, and I'm like, yeah, like to these major leaguers, that's a meatball. Like
Mm-hmm.
that is a meatball. That's all you're tossing. Um, I don't like the body language. I think it's gross. I think he's just kind of there to pick up a paycheck. No team's going to trade for him. I think that he might just catch a phantom and then at some point could get released. Because I don't know what quality of pitcher, what kind of quality Marcus Stroman can bring to the table to this rotation right now. I think that you're going to get better value from a Will Warren. I think you're going to get better value from a Carlos Carrasco. I think you could even get better value from a Clayton Beater who's coming back from injury right now and will be on the big league roster at some point. But I don't know as a starting pitcher, even his depth. I don't know what Stroman's going to give you because right now he just does not have it. It's 88 to 90. And to these major leaguers, that is literally money on a platter for them. It's the craziest thing ever, dude. It's BP. What do they do? Maybe they release him. I don't know. They like eat a chunk of that change. I'll tell you what, he's not going to hit that vesting option because he has to throw 140 innings to get to that vesting option. He's not hitting that vesting option. That's not happening. So,
Uh,
I think it's very limited for him.
it felt like the whole trade thing was way more likely before the season started, and maybe if he got out to a better start, then would have been something that could happen. But it just feels like there's no scenario with him. It's just release
Yeah,
or keep him.
I think it was a Yankee push narrative for them to trade him because they wanted him off the books. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
think that was from Stroman's camp. I think Stroman's happy collecting his paycheck and moving on every week. Um, but I think that was a Yankee push thing to the point where like, hey, like we want him off the books. So instead of having to pay him this big chunk of change.
So I want to ask you a legacy question. So we all know how great Aaron Judge is. To me, he's having one of the best primes baseball history in general. But he plays for the New York Yankees. And my question for you is, does he need a World Series ring to become a Yankee great?
No, I think he's Yankee great
You
already.
know, okay.
I think he's Yankee great already. I think that as far as the Mount Rushmore of Yankees as far as like, you know, the greatest to ever play the game. I think that that would certainly help his case.
Hmm.
But he's a Hall of Famer at
Yeah.
33, guys. Like he's unbelievable. I mean, he's already hit 300 and 60 career home runs or whatever the number is, and like broke the home run record and all that kind of stuff. Like it's already all in the bag for him. If he wins a World Series, I think he could be a top three, top two, top one
I
Yankee
agree.
of all time, just because this is the greatest hitter I've ever seen in my life, bar none. I wasn't. I'm 25, so I was born 99, so I didn't really get to watch the Bonds era. But this is the greatest hitter I have ever seen in my life. It is unbelievable sitting down and watching this guy be like, oh, like he's good for 2 hits today. Like it's crazy to me. It's nuts.
Hmm.
Because I've never seen something like this. I think that he's a Yankee great for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I think that a World Series ring would help his legacy for sure, bar none, and would erase all of those narratives about him in the postseason. Um, but yeah, I think he's a Yankee great already.
Yeah, I just asked that because unfortunately, if he doesn't win one in 20 years, we'll have the uncle at the barbecue saying, "Oh, he never got it done in the
Yeah,
playoffs." That's what I don't want to hear his name be stuck around because he's such an awesome player, one of the best I've ever seen.
I think
Yeah,
he deserves one, bar none. Like he
Hmm.
totally deserves one right now. Yeah, I
I,
think they
I
need
I
to
want
get him
so
one for
bad.
sure. Yeah.
I think it's so crazy when you watch a Yankees game with people that aren't typically baseball fans. You kind of have to sit there and explain to them like this isn't normal. Like what this guy does, how
Yeah.
routine it is from him. It's just not normal.
Well, then some people are enamored by it, and it's like, oh my God, this guy's nuts! Like he's just hitting
Yeah.
everything, and you're
Hmm.
like, yeah, it's just normal.
Well, yeah,
Like it's
it
nuts.
is
Yeah,
normal for him. Yeah.
it's crazy. It's unbelievable, especially my buddies who don't watch baseball. They're talking about Judge, and they think he's the greatest human to walk the planet Earth, and so do I. I mean, the
Yeah.
guy's incredible, right? But yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, he's the greatest hitter I've ever seen in my lifetime, and I think at this point that I probably will ever see in my lifetime because it's
Hmm.
he's doing something that you know you don't ever see. So
We have about 7 minutes left on the Zoom before it'll cut us off. So just a couple more questions.
yeah,
Uh,
you're good.
so every year, you come in the season, you circle maybe a series or two on the calendar. I have an idea of what your answer is going to be for this year, but what series are you looking forward to most this year?
Mets for
Cool.
sure.
Yep.
It's the Mets for sure. Mets at Yankee Stadium, I think is the one. The city doesn't really mean too much to me. But obviously that guy coming back is going to be a big thing. I'm also very excited for they will go out to Los Angeles this year. They'll play the Dodgers. I think that'll be really cool.
Hmm.
And then I am very excited to watch them play the Red Sox this year because I think the Red Sox are actually very good.
Yeah.
So I think that those three is like the Yankees, like big three rivals at this point. Obviously, the Dodgers is coming off the World Series loss. That other guy in the Boston. I think that I genuinely think that Yankees Red Sox will get new life this year, especially with them being good
Yeah.
again. And I think that, Mets Yankees is going to be even worse than it has been over the past couple years, which is great for the sport. Um, but for sure, Mets, Dodgers, Red Sox, I think those are going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. Especially Mets. Oh my God, that's going to be nuts. I'm going to go.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bloodbath. I'm going to have so much fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be back from school, so we'll be going to those games too.
You guys
So I
should
can't
be.
wait.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You guys 100% should be there,
Uh-huh.
without a doubt. It's going to be so fun, man.
Quickly, is the American League the Yankees lose? I still think it is.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday, and we were just talking. He's a big Orioles fan.
Hmm.
And he was like, yeah, like this team is just dead in the water, like because they can't pitch, they can't hit, they can't do anything right now. It's really really tough for them, especially what they've come off of from the last 2 years. Is the Yankees? Here's the problem. Here's the problem. Is the AL is so bad. And I really genuinely, when I look at the Yankees and I put them in the National League, I think they're like the fourth or fifth best team, right? But then when I look at the American League, I think it's a two-horse race. I genuinely think it's between them and Boston. I think they're the best two teams in the AL right now. But I would take the Yankees in a 7 game series. I would
Yeah.
take the Yankees right now, and it's crazy but because it's just how weak the American League is. And the American League was so weak last year that, like, the Yankees walked through that postseason run. They sleptwalked through it, guys. They did not play well during that postseason run whatsoever, but they squeaked by Kansas City. They squeaked by Cleveland. And then the class shows in the World Series, right? Which is tough, which, it broke everybody's heart, which is unbelievable. But I think it's still theirs to lose. I really do. And there's so many holes in this team right now. I still think that they're the best team in the American League. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh, just a couple more questions here. So last week, Judge was named the captain of the World Baseball Classic team for America. Do you get into the World Baseball Classic a lot? How excited are you for that?
I thought it was awesome in 23. 23 was really the first year that I like sat down and like watched and like paid attention. Um, it was the most fun I think I'd ever had watching baseball, just because it felt like there were 8 different all-star teams kind of lining up, and you were watching that on a nightly basis. It was really an incredible experience. And I think that for us as Yankee fans, they had Higashioka was like their one
Mhm.
guy out there last year. Like Grant, like loved Higgy, he was great, but like he's not Aaron Judge.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really cool for the captain of the New York Yankees, one of our guys, to be out there, patrolling right field every day, and especially being the captain of Team USA. I think that's going to be a really cool experience. I think that is peak baseball. I think it's prime baseball. I think it's the final, the semi and the final of that. Really, it's playoff baseball. It's like World Series, ALCS, NLCS, and then like the WBC semi and final. Like it's legitimately incredible baseball. It's so fun, dude. I absolutely love it. And for Judge to be there, it's going to be even better.
Yeah. I remember I went to the WBC in 2013. I was in fourth grade out in San Francisco. That was when the Dominican Republic won. They had Robbie Cano
Yeah,
and Fernando Rodney closed out the championship.
yeah,
That was incredible. So
that's elite, dude. That was
yeah.
elite baseball, man. I think it's so cool, and they're pumping more money into it now
Hmm.
because after 23, they realized, oh, this is a legitimate thing. People love watching this, so I couldn't be happier for that event. I think it's really cool.
All right, Sam, I think that's all we're going to have for you today. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Means a lot to us.
Yeah, we really
Maybe we
appreciate
get to
it.
talk to you in the future, a month or two down the
Absolutely,
line. Yeah, thank
yeah.
you, man.
Thank you guys for having me, man. I appreciate
Of
it.
course. Of course. Thank you so much. Have a good one.
Thanks, boys.
Yeah.